Check out carmarshal.com. The link is in the description. They help support us.
Parkland shooting first responder comes forward, says he was told to stand down. A first responder to the tragic shooting in Parkland, Florida has come forward claiming that he could have saved lives but that police issued the order to stand down as children died inside the school. By Matt Agarist, February 28, 2018. I could have saved lives, said the first responder. In the 2 weeks since the tragic shooting occurred in Parkland, Florida, we have learned that cops cowered outside instead of helping. The police and FBI were all warned on multiple occasions that the alleged shooter, Nicholas Cruz, told people he was going to shoot up the school, and nearly 24 people reported Cruz for death threats. Now, however, we are learning that not only did the cops cower in fear instead of saving lives, but they told first responders not to help. Everything I was trained on mass casualty events says they did the wrong thing, said the first responder, who spoke with WSVN Miami News 7 reporter Brian Enton on the condition of anonymity. You don't wait for the scene to be cleared. You go in immediately armed. Retrieve the victims. You can't leave the victims laying there, he explained. But they could not go in. As the man explained to WSVN, he was telling officials that he needed to go in, but they told him not to. We were asking to go in. Asking the scene commander to go in. Why are we all standing around? Why are we not having patients to treat? Why are we not going into the building and retrieving these kids? The response every time was law enforcement did not clear the scene and would not allow medical personnel in, he said. Arguably, the death toll could have been far less had emergency medical personnel been allowed in, as some of the victims lay bleeding for nearly an hour. Indeed, the first responder agrees. I would hypothesize I could have saved lives. I can't say for sure, he said, adding, I would have risked my life to go in. I was eager to. I was frustrated the entire time I was there, said the first responder, explaining the disheartening scene. Rapid evacuation of the wounded. All they had to do was drag them out of the building. And we could have started medical care, he said. The first responder said that police made that decision at the time but noted that it was the wrong decision. I don't think it was the right one, he said. They should have been more aggressive about getting the victims out. Can't say for sure if the people were dead inside or if they could have helped, he added. View image on Twitter. View image on Twitter. Brian Enton. Heavy checkmark. At Brian Enton. Everything I was trained on mass casualty events says they did the wrong thing. I spoke with a seasoned emergency medical responder who was one of the first to the Stoneman shooting. He doesn't want me using his name for fear he will get fired. Here are his exact quotes. At WSVN. 1:12 p.m., February 24, 2018. 4,238. 4,146 people are talking about this. Twitter adds info and privacy. He then explained that he saw at least one victim who had to wait 45 minutes before getting loaded into an ambulance. Frustrating doesn't even begin to describe the level of anger and pain the parents and families of the victims must feel knowing that their child laid bleeding out as cops told paramedics not to help them. It wasn't just paramedics who were told to stand down either. As Fox News host Laura Ingraham revealed this week, police were told to stand down too unless they had on body cameras, as if a body camera somehow makes a police officer better at stopping a school shooter. Broward County Sheriff's deputies were supposedly told not to enter Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School unless they had body cameras on, which they did not have, reported the Daily Wire. Ingraham also revealed that police lost radio transmissions during the shooting, which also happened at the mass shooting at Fort Lauderdale Airport shooting last year, which is also in Broward County. As more details continue to emerge about this tragic incident, the ones who are seemingly most responsible for the death toll, other than the shooter, seem to be the ones who claim to keep people safe. It appears in this instance, however, that they did the exact opposite.
Does the government work for us, or do we work for the government? Tonight, what if the Constitution no longer applied? What if the whole purpose of the Constitution was to limit the government? What if Congress's enumerated powers in the Constitution no longer limited Congress, but were actually used as a justification to extend Congress's authority over every realm of human life? What if the president, meant to be an equal to Congress, has instead become a democratically elected, term-limited monarch? What if the president assumed that everything he did was legal just because he's the president? What if he could interrupt your regularly scheduled radio and TV programming for a special message from him? What if he could declare war on his own? What if he could read your emails and your texts without a search warrant? What if he could kill you without warning? What if Supreme Court justices no longer looked to the Constitution to determine the constitutionality of a law, but rather simply to what justices who preceded them thought about it? What if the rights and principles guaranteed in the Constitution have been so distorted in the past 200 years as to be unrecognizable by the founders? What if the 50 states were no longer sovereign entities, equals to each other, and parents of the federal government they voluntarily constituted? What if the states were mere provinces of a totally nationalized and fully centralized government? What if the Constitution was amended stealthily, not by constitutional amendments duly ratified by the states, but by the constant and persistent expansion of the federal government's role in our lives? What if the federal government decided if its own powers were proper and constitutional? What if the Constitution were no longer the supreme law of the land? What if you needed a license from the government to speak, to assemble, or to protest against the government? What if the government didn't like what you planned to say, and so it didn't give you the license? What if the right to keep and bear arms only applied to the government? What if posse comitatus, the federal law that prohibits our military from occupying our streets, were no longer in effect? What if the government considered the military an adequate dispenser of domestic law enforcement? What if cops looked and acted like troops and you couldn't distinguish the military from the police? What if you were not secure in your person, in your papers, and in your property? What if federal agents could write their own search warrants in defiance of the Constitution? What if the government could decide when you were and were not entitled to a jury trial? What if the government could take your property whenever it wanted? What if the government could continue prosecuting you until it got the verdict it wanted? What if the government could force you to testify against yourself simply by labeling you a domestic terrorist? What if the government could torture you until you said what the government wanted to hear? What if people running for president actually supported torture? What if the government tortured your children to get to you? What if government judges and government lawyers intimidated juries into convicting the innocent? What if the government could send you to your death and your innocence meant nothing so long as the government's procedures were followed? What if America's prison population, the largest in the world, was a cruel and unusual way for a country to be free? What if half the prison population never harmed anyone but themselves? What if the people had no rights except those the government chose to let them have? What if the states had no rights except to do as the federal government commanded? What if our elected officials didn't really live among us, but instead all had their hearts and homes in Washington, D.C.? What if the government could strip you of your rights because of where your mother was when you were born? What if the income tax was unconstitutional? What if the states were convinced to give up their representation in Congress? What if the government tried to ban you from using a substance in your body that is older than the government itself? What if voting didn't mean anything anymore because both political parties stand for big government? What if the government could write any law, regulate any behavior, and tax any event? The Constitution be damned. What if the government was the reason we don't have a Constitution anymore? What if you could love your country but hate what the government has done to it? What if sometimes to love your country you had to alter or abolish the government? What if Jefferson was right? What if that government is best which governs least? What if I'm right? What if the government is wrong? What if it is dangerous to be right when the government is wrong? What if it is better to perish fighting for freedom than to live as a slave? What if freedom's greatest hour of danger is now?
County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheeple up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Charlotte County COPWATCH with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if some, if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say, actually, yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But, do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, at least I can do it. 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is, if I got, some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. 47,000 of you so far right now. $1 a day. $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.